Honourable Minister, fellow panellists, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. A very good morning to you all. I'd like to thank CRFM for inviting the Organisation of African, Caribbean and Pacific States to participate in this important side event. It's always hard to be the last speaker because, of course, everybody and everything has been said, and we've had, 3 extremely eloquent presentations by our previous speakers and an excellent keynote by the Honourable Minister. And so I will sound like I'm repeating quite a number of things, but nevertheless I'm going to do that because I think it's important. So for many SIDS, often coined, and Keith has already touched on this, often coined as large ocean island states, the ocean is central with the fisheries and aquaculture sectors a priority as they serve to address food security and nutrition, prosperity and well-being. SIDS cultures, heritage and traditions are also intertwined with the ocean and with its resources. And as I speak, I will use SIDS sometimes and I will use OW sometimes because I'm from a small island developing state. I'm from Fiji. So you'll hear SIDS sometimes and OW sometimes because I am an islander. But for some time now, climate change remains the pervasive challenge for SIDS, sustainability and resilience aspirations. SIDS being at the front line and already feeling the full force of the climate emergency, notwithstanding contributing the least to the problem. SIDS endure severe loss and damage, which manifest in many forms, including destroyed production assets and infrastructure, economic and livelihood losses, loss of lives and forced displacement, and productivity declines in degraded marine ecosystems, as we heard from both Milton and Keith. So building resilient fisheries and aquaculture sectors in SIDS is an assured way of enhancing island communities' resilience to climate change-related risks, as well as other exogenous shocks. The foundations for climate-resilient fisheries lie in ensuring that, firstly, the natural assets on which economic activity depend are secure, well-managed and productive. Secondly, the dependent communities have an enhanced capacity to manage and reduce all risks, including adapting and mitigating climate change, as well as disaster risk reduction. So financing sustainable fisheries management, upgrading infrastructure to withstand climate impacts, and deploying advanced innovative technologies, including renewable energy and risk-informed early warning systems, are now urgent priorities to ensure SIDS peoples and communities can live free and worthwhile lives. The landscape of current financing instruments deployed to build resilience and sustainable fisheries and aquaculture sectors are diverse. And Keith did put up a slide on that. And these come from national public finance, including blue bonds, from grants, including overseas development assistance, if one's income status allows, from the GEF, the GCF, and global funds for coral reefs, ocean innovation, from multilateral development banks, such as through the World Bank's Pro-Blue and the European Investment Bank's Blue Sustainable Ocean Strategy, from private philanthropy, and from private investment financing and impact financing. However, in saying this, that finance is inadequate and not terribly easy to access for SIDS. And it isn't matching the expanding needs of SIDS. And this is why we cannot fully discuss the subject of financing climate resilience in fisheries and aquaculture without placing it in the global context of climate justice. SIDS countries have been at the forefront and have demonstrated leadership in calling for urgent and scaled-up climate ambition to align with the Paris climate objectives of not breaching the 1.5 degree Celsius temperature limit to stay alive. And I think, Keith, you more eloquently presented this, but nevertheless, these are in my notes that I wrote this morning. And so to ensure action is implemented on the ground, SIDS have developed ambitious nationally determined contributions, or NDCs as we know them, together with national adaptation plans, which are conditional on external support. In fact, our estimates are that SIDS require 28.7 billion US dollars annually to 2030 to implement their NDCs. And SIDS must use their NDCs as a key opportunity to secure resources to build resilient societies and economies. In their current NDCs, SIDS identify the energy, agriculture and sustainable transport sectors for their main climate mitigation measures, and coastal zone management and fisheries as their key adaptation sectors. The OACPS SIDS Forum is preparing to convene a SIDS-led resource mobilisation conference for financing NDCs in 2025. And we see this as a direct contribution to supporting SIDS efforts to implement the Antigua and Barbuda action for SIDS, which will be a key outcome of this the SIDS4 conference. Their commitments under the Paris Agreement, and ultimately to address meeting many of the goals of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. As I have already mentioned, but I think it's worth reiterating here, despite contributing the least greenhouse gas emissions, yet bearing the brunt of climate change impacts, SIDS countries face higher costs of capital as they seek funding for blue-green projects to ensure a just transition due to their income status, and also an international financing system that was built at a time when climate change and other crises had not been fully revealed. The conundrum we find ourselves in is if SIDS have to foot much of the bill to adapt to and to mitigate climate change, they worsen the ocean of debt which they are wallowing in now, and which may in fact sink SIDS before the rising sea levels, another problem they did not cause. We are now faced with the debt, climate, ocean, biodiversity, and we could go on, nexus, that must find urgent and sustainable solutions for financing SIDS resilience, including in the fisheries and aquaculture sectors. And this is why the Organisation of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, the OACPS, supports the Bridgetown Initiative 2.0, as championed by Barbados's Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, which seeks to reform financing and at scale commensurate with the climate change shocks and challenges faced by SIDS and other vulnerable developing countries of the OACPS. Clearly, relying on GNI per capita as the sole criteria for access to concessional finance is not appropriate for our times. We need new approaches and revamped financing mechanisms to facilitate access to concessional development financing so that our members can navigate recurring climate crises. To inform this process, the OACPS is developing a climate vulnerability and resilience index as an innovative tool to inform the debate on allocating financial resources to build resilience. Our aim today is not to only shed light on the multifaceted nature of vulnerability, but also highlight the important role of innovative vulnerability indices as credible complementary tools in shaping the financing mechanisms that respond to current development challenges for SIDS and ensure the requisite resources are provided so SIDS can achieve sustainability and build resilience. OACPS, as an organisation, drawing membership from 79 Africa, Caribbean and Pacific states, of which 39 members are SIDS, is uniquely positioned to facilitate intra-regional ACP SIDS cooperation and collaboration, to build our resilience and prosperity, and to work closely together to see how we make concrete contributions to solving and addressing some of the impacts faced by the global climate emergency. Because we have stewardship over 30% of the blue planet. This needs to be recognised, acknowledged, appreciated and supported by traditional and new partners. Genuine and durable partnerships between SIDS regions and between SIDS and other partners need to be built, or where they are already built on and strengthened. In addition, as an early step towards agreeing how we implement the ABAS, I understand it's going to be called that, the Antigua and Barbuda Action for SIDS, in respect of our ocean initiatives, including fisheries and aquaculture, OACPS ministers in charge of oceans, inland waters and fisheries will meet for the 8th time in Tanzania from the 9th to the 13th of September. And we trust that our Caribbean members and regional agencies will be actively present and participating. We need for SIDS a collective effort to strengthen our institutions, our instruments for effective implementation. We should aim to reap dividends by pooling our efforts and resources to address the global crises we face, by turning some of our approaches on their head. So I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion.